when the finance minister was saying, look, the tax penetration, 16%, tax to GDP, 16%. They're looking at 25%. And they look at the numbers. And he spoke about the numbers for corporates and individuals. And you can't believe it, that in a country of about 40 million people, the tax penetration is just absolutely near the bottom.
Yeah.
So a tax amnesty, you think we should spread this? So I'm asking if whether we should do other form of revenue-based amnesty. Is it necessary?
Every means and ways by which we can deepen the tax penetration is welcome. Even if we achieve the target of adding 4 million extra taxpayers to the existing 14 million or thereabout, we'll still be below 20 million taxpayers out of potentially 70 million people based on the statistics that we read. So it's still low. So every ways and means by which we could open it up and spread the burden over a large number of people, it will be a welcome idea. My take is that even with the amount of information that is available to the government, let's take it as a given that now the government have access to everybody's data, they have access to your earnings and all of that. What is the amount of resources in terms of manpower and capability and technology that is available for government to go in chase of 50 million potential taxpayers? That's a humongous responsibility. So let's open it up a little more. This is a peculiar economy. This is a peculiar situation where even though it is unjustifiable, people have very valid reasons why they still feel angry at dropping in their money, even though the law says they should, and I'm not in any way condoling it, but they still have very serious reasons to say, why are you going to ask me to pay tax? I practically run a local government of my own. It could be a vicious cycle. It could be a chicken and an egg thing. I fix my road, I fix my electricity, I fix my power, and that's what I've done in the past. So what is the moral right for government to ask me to put in the money? Because what has been there before, I need to be a lot more convinced, and I'm talking of a national spread. A few states are doing better than the other.
Being a reversal of what John F. Kennedy says. Don't think of what your country can do, but what you can do for your country. So people in Nigeria feels, well, I'm doing so much that the government should be doing. What is the government doing for me?
That's correct. That's the argument. And of course, if you listen to the government, they say that's exactly why you need to do the right thing. So we have all of the money to make all these amenities available and all of that. So, and that's why there needs to be a middle ground. You know, government needs to realize that as unacceptable as those explanations or arguments are
in law,
morally, but from a practical perspective, the system hasn't been fair to everybody in the past. This is since 1960 till date, so we can't justifiably say the system has been fair to everybody, and we must recognize that, and that's why this kind of an amnesty provides some bit of a middle ground. So we know you may not be right in law, but we also know that in the past you may not have been fairly treated. So let's find a middle ground. Let's draw a line. Let's understand, and I think that's what the finance minister, if you listen to her a couple of months, a couple of weeks ago, you keep hearing how she explains how unfair, you know, the system is in terms of the large and the high and mighty who are earning so much, paying so little, and just the guys who are on paid employment, whose salaries are being withheld, you know, so those are the people that are being asked to pay taxes. So let's put in all those kind of sentiments. Let's buy people's emotional and psychologically, you know, into the scheme.
That is part of this conversation because, and that is what you call the tax and the Nigerian economy. If an economy is failing, yeah. If well, way back last year, 27 state governments out of 36 were not paying salaries adequately. So if you have state governments not paying salaries, how do you ask these individuals for tax? Because if they're not paid salaries as civil servants, you can't deduct the payee from it, right?
That's correct.
But you still, whatever they consume, you still deduct the VAT.
That's correct. That's correct.
Help me out here.
Yeah. So because one is based on income, the other is based on consumption. So if you haven't earned any income, there's no salary. You either spending from what you've got before, or maybe you have some other means that is not that is separate from your paid employment. So as you buy, as you transact, there are some element of taxes that you pay, and that's why, I mean, people like me, I'm a proponent of an indirect system. You know, it's a lot easier, it's a lot more convenient. So people, in an economy where you still need all of the money to reflect the economy, I think it's a better tax system to have a lower direct taxes, so the purchasing power, the disposable income of be it the corporate or individual is increased, and there is a feel-good effect. So you earn 100, instead of paying 20 to the government, maybe for the sake of argument, government takes just 15 or government takes just 10. And so you think your disposable income has been increased by 5 or 10. But bet what? For every 1 naira Nigerian earns, statistics says 70 kobo is spent. So the propensity to consume is about 0.7. So the whole of that money ended up being spent anyway. So, and as you spend, there is an amount of tax, VAT or whatever form of indirect tax we want to introduce that is paid to the government. And you probably didn't know. You probably didn't know you're paying those taxes. Just walk into the shop and know that for a 100 naira item, somebody gave you a bill of 105 and you paid and you move on. But if somebody asks you to pay 5 naira tax from your 100 naira income, you're going to grumble.
How does it work in developed economies when there's a tax law that says we're giving more back to the people, we're taxing the high and mighty, and we're putting more money in the pockets of the workers, as it were? How does it work out in those places, and what makes it almost impossible to achieve in this environment?
It's because in systems like that, decisions are fact-based. Decisions are well researched. You have amount of information with which you know that by increasing this by 0.7 or 100 basis point or 1 basis point, you can almost immediately see the impact. You can appeal to people's emotion. You can let people have the feel-good effect, so we're reducing the direct tax and people think, the taxes are lowered. But the government, on the other hand, is going to be making those money either through employment, either through increased business activity, either through indirect taxes. Those are the kind of things that is done in those countries. And the ease with which those legislations and policies are passed, it's incredible. But in our own environment, to pass a small amendment takes, a considerable longer period of time. So we have challenges with data, which have challenges with, how well we've embraced technology. We have challenges with how well, the polity works in terms of making sure that our policies are easily understood and the support you need at the executive and legislative are all there. So there are a whole lot of things that are involved.
And communicating it with the people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The World Bank gave us this training about what you call communication in a highly impoverished environment. I remember Dr. Obodet from the World Bank. That was about 24 years ago, part of our training. Well, a final one.
Yep.
This VADES comes at a cost. Do you have any idea how much it costs Buhari's administration to prosecute this amnesty? Because an amnesty means you put something on the table to get something in your pocket.
That's correct.
As some folks are saying, the cost of the publicity, the cost of the advertisement, the cost of getting consultants like yourself is quite huge.
But it's a little bit too early to be able to do a very fair assessment of the entire cost. Like I said, up until 8 p.m. yesterday, folks were still queuing up in front of tax authorities. Many VADES offices probably, officials at VADES offices probably didn't get home until probably 9 or 8 p.m. yesterday. So
like in your firm?
Like also with tax authorities, particularly those who are actually receiving the form on the side of the government. So because people tried to battle through the traffic that we had yesterday, people didn't get submit on time, and the queue was just unusual compared to what we had before. So whatever number you see being brandished in the news now, I think it's still going to be a guesswork. The proportion of submission yesterday relative to the other is so high. So we need to allow some time, maybe 1-2 more weeks if there's no extension, to be able to then do a quantification of what is the potential interest that was lost, penalty that was waived, how much is spent on publicity, how much is spent on consultancy and all of that.
I got it. I'm not too sure if we will have, and this is playing to your side of the field, how much we can really get the full picture, since there was an extension, there is a 3-year installment period for pay. So we can't really tell if a guy puts, if a firm puts 10 million or $1 billion on the table, what they will pay spread over the next 3 years.
That's correct, but at least we can have an idea of the total amount that has been so declared. Yes. How much has now come in terms of actual cash payment is probably what we can't tell until until the full installment cycle is over.
So whether the cutting falls today or not is still ongoing.
It's still ongoing.
In one way or the other.
Absolutely.
In terms of processing and what have you.
That's correct. Those who've gotten approvals are still making payments, and for the next 3 years, possibly,
money is still coming in.
Money is still coming in from Amnesty.
Very interesting. Yeah, we'll keep tracking the money. Thank you very much. And do enjoy the rest of your day and your holiday.
Thank you so much, Bosun,
Olubenro, who is a partner and West Africa tax leader at Deloitte, Nigeria.